Right, good morning all. So today is Sunday, November 30th of November 2025. Right, and we're moving along. So I would have deflected from the actual surahs or the teachings of the book, right, for the last few days, but it was not in fact a deflection or redirection. It was just the book being told in a different way, the book being recited, but in a different way, right? Not as in Surah 1, Surah 2, Surah 3, right? But the book being recited or told, or the message being conveyed in a different manner, right? So I just want to take these 3 days, these final 3 days here that I'll be doing this, right? To return to the book because the book is where the message has come from, right? The book is the way in which the message has been conveyed, right? Originally, right? So through that revelation, through the insight, through the revelation, right? So I'll just give three of my favorite for the next today and tomorrow and the following day. Give three of um, my favorite verses. Now I have a lot of favorite verses from the Quran, right? But for the next 3 days, I'll choose three out of those and convey those messages just to bring us back, right, to the Quran. Because regardless of whatever pathway we take in life, and everybody is going to realize this, right? This is something that everybody who is capable of understanding and seeing this, right, will realize on earth, right, regardless of what pathway you take in life, religious or otherwise, right, you could be whatever religion, right, Hindu, Christian, right, you could be in politics, you could be in entertainment, you could be in the banking industry, you could be in any particular walk of life, education, right, you will come crawling back to Allah, right? Allah, right? So, this is just the reminder for these 3 days, right? That regardless of whatever industry or career, right, or life path or purpose path or whatever path you think you is suited for you or you are suited for, right? Regardless of whatever this situation is in life, you would always come or you would always find a reason to come back to the Quran and come back to Allah, right? So we're talking about Surah 24, verse 37, right? And this is specifically referring to those who are in business or commerce, right? What is business or commerce, right? Business or capitalism, right? Capitalist enterprise is that you start up a business or a form of exchange. You exchange a product for money, right? You produce a product, right? And you exchange that product for monetary gain with the intention of making a profit, right? With the intention of making a profit, right? So you are capitalizing on what? You are in fact capitalizing on people's ignorance, right, of the true cost or the true cost that it takes to produce a product, capitalizing on that ignorance that others have, right, and utilizing the ignorance of others in order to make a profit, and in some cases it's not just a profit but it's a hefty profit, right, on other people's ignorance, right? That is what capitalism is essentially, or trade or business or commerce, right? So we are talking about that, and the book makes mention, right, of those who are closer to Allah, those who are willing to leave those sorts of enterprises, right? Or not necessarily leave it, but redirect how you see it, right? So you don't have to necessarily leave. When I say leave it, I mean leave that viewpoint, right? Leave that viewpoint of seeing you capitalizing on other people's ignorance and make more money, right? Whether you see you making it for yourself, for your own pleasures, for whatever purpose, right? That is selfish, right? To leave that viewpoint, right? Leave that manner of seeing things, right? And come back to the viewpoint of Allah, right? Come back to the perspective of Allah, which is so grand that we mightn't be able to grasp it in the first place, right? But to come close to seeing what Allah desires of you, right? If you are in that sort of enterprise, meaning that you've inherited, because a lot of things in the world have already been built, right? So talking about people who have inherited this, right? And come back to the viewpoint of Allah and leave the viewpoint of seeing things of you continually just making money, because what are you continually making this money for, right? Is it not for the benefit, or supposed to be for the benefit, right, of the wider society? So looking to turning the viewpoint of this capitalist enterprise into something that is more beneficial, right? I mean, and not as much for the sake of profit, but for the benefit, right? For that profit being for the benefit of others around us, right? Who have not acquired these things like you have, right? Um, so you're talking about supermarkets, pharmacies, all types of enterprises, right? Any manner of banking, any type of enterprises that have to do with the making of money, right? Loans, all these things, right? Any enterprise that has to do with the making of money upon the ignorance of others, right? So Allah is calling you back to remember, right? To remember, right? Allah says, remember him and he will remember you, right? So this is what we are we want people to get to start to think about. If you are involved in these types of um, business practices and so on, you're not doing it for yourself, because capitalism by nature is a selfish enterprise, right? The fact that you're doing something to make money, right? So we want to turn that viewpoint. If you are doing something to make that money, to if your sole driving purpose and force in life is profit, let that profit be. So you're turning your selfishness to selflessness, right? Let that profit be to profit those who are lesser in um, who have not been inheritors of these forms of wealth like you have, right? So that, right? So and of course this is only an example, because there are a lot of other things incorporated into this capitalist enterprise, such as utilizing lust and so on into your marketing strategy, right? For example, you see a car advertising car products, you see a woman in a bikini in a billboard, right, on the highway, these sorts of things, right? Or you are advertising your music, right, and you have nudity in the worst of ways, or in the most whatever ways, right? So you are promoting something, because music is something that sells also, that is a form of income, right? So watch how you are promoting these things, right? So this is just an example of what I mentioned about actual business, because business is not just physical, right? Music is business. There are other forms of business, right? People do trade and all these things, right? So watch how you use these things, right? And watch how you use people's ignorance, meaning lack of knowledge, right? So people lack knowledge in a lot of things in the world, right? People lack knowledge in business, people lack knowledge in trading, people lack knowledge in science, and anything, right? So watch how you use, and science has become a profitable enterprise too. So watch how you use all of these industries, and watch how you use people, right, and capitalizing on people's ignorance to make money. And if you do this, let it be for the benefit of those around, right? So this is Surah 24 verse 37, talking about not letting your business enterprise, right, distract you from the remembrance of Allah, right? So we move on with two more, and then we carry on with life.